Hello everybody, and welcome back to a brand new video. Now, RuneScape has a very realistic economy, and something about it that I've found really fascinating throughout the years is how much people are willing to pay for certain items in this game. Between OSRS and RuneScape 3, certain items are valued above the maximum cash stack and have to be traded outside of the conventional markets. I find it crazy that some RuneScape items are sold for thousands of dollars and hold such value. I will be looking at both games. So we're going to be looking at the very first sales of certain rare items, or of course discontinued items. Anyway guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, I'd appreciate it if you leave the video a like. Always helps out a lot. The YouTube algorithm likes it. Alright, let's get started. Now, for simplicity's sake, I'm going to be converting all of the RS3 gold into OSRS, as I think that'll be the most readable. Now, the first item on this list here is actually from Dead Man Mode. Now, for those of you who have never really played Dead Man Mode, generally because the economy is so new, the game mode is limited. The exchange rate between DMM, Deadman, and OSRS is usually very favorable. It starts off at like 200 to 1 and slowly drops throughout the tournament. Now, at this point, I think the exchange rate was roughly somewhere between 2 to 1 and 3 to 1. And a player by the name of Death's Hope, as well as a few other players, were doing some Corporal Beast and actually managed to pull one of the first Elysian Spirit Shields of the tournament at kill count number 182. And at the time, they managed to sell it for 700 mil Dead Man Mode gold, which with the exchange rate was worth around 1.7 bill old school RuneScape. Extremely lucky, but they definitely capitalized on the tournament and made a pretty quick bag. Now, next up here, we have one of the rarest items in old school RuneScape pretty much ever since it came out as well, and it's only really increased in value, and that is the Third Age Pickaxe. Now, the Third Age Pickaxe was released with the Master Clue update, and the reason that it is so rare compared to other pieces of Third Age is it's only available from Master Clues, which means you can't get it from an Elite or a Hard Clue, unlike most of the other Third Age items. Now, as with all of these items, it's possible that there are private sales that went for more, but we're just using publicly available information here. So with that said, the most expensive the Third Age Pickaxe I think has ever sold for was actually just back in January. Just looking on GE Tracker here, we can see that the Third Age Pickaxe rose up to 1.7 bill. Insanely expensive for pretty much a cosmetic item. The item is so ridiculously rare that I don't think there's more than a couple hundred in the game, if that. 1.7 bill really is nothing to scoff at, although it could have sold for more when it first came out, but I couldn't find any proof. Okay, so next up here, in a very similar vein to the Third Age Pickaxe, we have the Third Age Druidic set, specifically the top and bottom. Now, just like the Third Age Pickaxe and the Third Age Axe, the Druidic set is only available from Master Clues, which makes it ridiculously rare. Again, very few of them in the game. And unlike the Third Age Pickaxe, this item is even newer, only released back in April of 2019, so it's only been out for around 1 year. Essentially what that means is most likely the volume and quantity for Third Age Druidic sets is much lower than the Pickaxe, and that does seem to be reflected in the price. Again, I couldn't find any images from when the item was released. It is possible it went for over max cash, but with that said, if we look back at February of 2020, we can see that the Third Age Druidic bottom sold for nearly max cash, kind of skirting it, sold for 2 bill. That is an absolutely insane amount of money to spend for this. Now, the Third Age Druidic top sold for a very similar amount back in March at around 1.9 bill. So they are very similar, and I thought I would just include them in the same category. So if you managed to pull one of these back in March, you'd probably be a very happy person. Okay, next up here we have a fairly new item from OSRS, and that is the Harmonized Orb. Now, the Harmonized Orb came out with the Nightmare update, and initially it was an extremely rare item. It still is today, but when it first was released, the drop rates for it were very, very low. Now, that in conjunction with the Harmonized Orb being useful in both PVM and PvP gave it a very high ticket value right off the bat. Now, the most expensive sale that I could find was from a YouTuber named Boom Epic Kill, who spent 2.1 billion GP just on the orb. Nearly max cash just for the orb, and that's not it. You'd still need to attach it to a Nightmare Staff, which at the time was going for hundreds of millions as well. And I believe this was the day that it released or the day after, and the item's price dropped very, very quickly. Now, hopefully they didn't lose too much money on it, but if you did, well, the consolation prize is you made it in my video. Hooray. Alright, so next up here we have our very first entry from RS3, and it is none other than the Party Hat. Now the party hat is one of the oldest items in RuneScape history and one of the few discontinued items in the game. Now I think most people know the history of party hats pretty well, so I'm not going to summarize that again. And even within the realms of party hats, which there are 6 of them, they hold drastically different values. Now at number 8, we have 3 different party hats here that are valued roughly the same, and that is the green party hat, the purple party hat, and the yellow party hat, currently going for an average of 13 billion GP RS3. Now the exchange rate that I'm using is going to be 1 to 6. Is it exactly right? Maybe not, but it's a pretty even number and pretty close. So 13 bill RS3 is equal to 2.16 bill OSRS. Now just in case you're a little bit confused by this image, in RS3 they do not have platinum tokens, which in OSRS is something you can exchange directly with the bank for 1000 GP per platinum token. In RS3 they're using spirit shards, which are bought directly from a shop, which means their value can fluctuate a bit, which is insane. If I were to make a comparison here, RS3 is using the Imperial system, and OSRS is using the Superior metric system. Now next up here we have another item from OSRS, and that is the Twisted Bow. Now the Twisted Bow is one of the most powerful items in old school RuneScape, and still actually holds a really high value of around 1.2 bill. Now when the item first came out, I'm pretty sure the very first one was sold for max cash stack, and that is the only record I could see of an actual sale. Although I think he actually did sell it for a couple of GP less than max cash stack, so I think he got scammed a bit. Now while I don't have definitive proof, I'm pretty sure that the Twisted Bow sold for above max cash stack in other occasions. It is by far the most powerful item in the game, and the first one sold for the maximum amount, which makes me inclined to believe that others sold for 3 to 4 bill, but again, were never made public. So could this player maybe gotten more? Yes, but they definitely took the safer option, which I may have considered doing as well. Selling something in the GE is much safer than doing it through a third-party website or person-to-person, and it's still a ton of money. Alright, so next up here, coming in at number 6, we have another party hat from RS3, and that is the red party hat. Now it's really interesting how the price of party hats have changed throughout the years, and just in general, rare items in RS3 have gotten way more expensive just over the last year or two. But I still find it interesting, like, why is the red party hat worth more than the green party hat, for example? The main factor that I'm aware of is that there was that big duplication glitch back in the day, and at the time people were duplicating what they thought to be the rarest party hat at the time, which was the purple party hat, and because of that there are way more of those types in the game. And of course certain colors are just more desirable, I guess. The red party hat is kind of middle of the pack for party hats, valued at around 17 bill as of a couple of days ago. And if you convert that to OSRS, that's worth around 2.8 billion GP, so even above max cash in OSRS. Okay, so breaking the top 5 here, I thought I'd do something fun. I'm going to be converting the actual amount they sold for into US dollars. Now, no way am I condoning real world trading, just kind of a thought experiment and to help visualize how expensive these items are. Now coming in at number 5, we have the white party hat, which sold recently for around 22.5 billion GP. That is an actual insane amount of money, valued at around 3.75 billion in OSRS, which means regardless of the game mode, it would be one of the most expensive items in the game. Now the exchange rate to US dollars does vary a bit. I'm going to say it's 50 cents a million right now. I might be a little bit conservative, but even at that amount, the white party hat would be worth around $1,800 US. Okay, so next up here we have the Third Age Longsword, which is one of the few items to ever sell for above max cash in OSRS. Now the Third Age Longsword had a few sales at around 4 billion GP OSRS, and that mainly had to do with the fact that a player by the name of Wilson was merching them. Now what's even more impressive is this sale was actually from around 4 years ago, which means the exchange rate back then was worth quite a bit more. 4 bill in 2016 was worth substantially more than 4 bill in 2020. Now after the Third Age Longsword was released in OSRS, Wilson started to buy them all out. Now at that valuation, the Third Age Longsword would be worth around 2,000 GP, although we do have to keep in mind that the exchange rate between US and GP back then was a lot more favorable, so it was probably worth more. Now coming up next here we have the most expensive party hat in RuneScape 3, and that is the blue party hat, currently valued at 28 billion GP RS3, which is crazy. The price of these items have shot up so much in the last year. 28 billion RS3 is worth around 4.7 bill OSRS, or if you decided to sell it for real life money, around $2,300 US. Now just squeaking in a little bit above that is the Christmas Cracker from RS3. The Christmas Cracker is the original way that party hats were brought into the game. And the Christmas cracker contains one of 6 party hats as well as a few other token items. Now surprisingly, it's actually only worth a couple bill more than the blue party hat, currently valued at around 30 billion GP RS3. Converting that to OSRS means it's worth about 5 bill OSRS and about 2,500 US dollars. Okay, finally here at number 1, we have the Scythe of Vidr from OSRS. Now the Scythe of Vidr is obtained from Raids 2 in OSRS and is the most rare and expensive item from it. Now when the item originally came into the game, it did not drop below max cash for months. Now was this item more expensive than when the Twisted Bow came into the game? Maybe not when you consider that it came years later and the gold value was less. Now with that said, the first couple sites were selling somewhere between 5 and 6 billion OSRS, which makes it the most expensive item sold in RuneScape history. Again, there could be private sales more than this, but this is just publicly available information. If you disagree here, have some proof, let me know with a comment down below. I would appreciate it. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.